नमः पार्वती पतये हर नमोऽस्त्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादा शिशिरोरुभावे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्यैकदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो गुरुभ्यो गुरुपादुकाभ्यो नमः परेभ्यः परपादुकाभ्यः आचार्यसिद्धेश्वरपादुकाभ्यो नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यः। ऐङ्कारविङ्काररहस्ययुक्त ॐकारगूढा नमः विभूत्या ॐकारमर्म प्रतिपादिनेभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। होत्राग्निहोत्रा निहवेशहोतृ होमानि सर्वा प्रतिभासमानम् यद्ब्रह्म तद्बोधवितारिणेभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। कामादिसर्प व्रजगारुडाभ्यां विवेकवैराग्यनिधिप्रदाभ्यां बोधप्रदाभ्यां धृतमोक्षदाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रतार नौकायिताभ्यां स्थिरभक्तिदाभ्यां जाड्यादिशंशोषणवाडवाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ अस्य श्री गुरुगीतास्तोत्रमन्त्रस्य भगवान् सदाशिवऋषि नानाविधानि छन्दांसि श्रीगुरु परमात्मा देवता अम्बेयं सशक्तिको कीलकं श्रीगुरु प्रसाद सिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः अथ ध्यानम् हंसाभ्यां परिवृत्तपत्रकमले दिव्यैर्जगत्कारणे विश्वोत्तीर्णमनेकदेहनिलये स्वच्छन्दमात्मेच्छया तद्योतं वदशाम्भवं तु चरणं दीपाङ्कुरग्राहिणं त्वत्यक्षाक्षरविग्रहं गुरुपदं ध्यायेद्विभुं शाश्वतम् चतुर्विधा पुरुषार्थसिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः सुत उवाच कैलासशिखरे रम्ये भक्तिसन्धाननायकं प्रणम्य पार्वती भक्त्या शङ्करं परिपृच्छति श्रीदेव्युवाच ॐ नमो देवदेवेश सर्वात्पर जगद्गुरो सदाशिव महादेव गुरुदीक्षां देहि मे तेन मार्गेण भूस्वामिन् देहि ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् त्वं कृपां कुरु मे स्वामिन् नमामि चरणौ तव ईश्वर वाच मम रूपासुदेवे त्वं त्वद्विद्यार्थं वदाम्यहं लोकपकारकाप्रश्नो न केनापि कृता पुरा दुर्लभं त्वेषु लोकेषु दाशृणुष्व वदाम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्मणान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं वदाम्यहम् वेदशास्त्रपुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च नित्येवचादिकम् शैव शाक्तागमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणिह जीवानां रामचेतसम् यज्ञोवतं तपोदानं जपस्तीर्थं तथैव च गुरुतत्त्वमविज्ञाय मूढास्ते चरते जनाः गुरुर्बुद्ध्यात्मनोन्नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं न संशयाः अल्लाभार्थं प्रयत्नस्तु गूढविद्या जगन्माया देहे ज्ञानसम्भवा विज्ञायो यत्प्रकाशेन गुरुशब्देन कथ्यते सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरुपादसेवनात् देहि ब्रह्म भवेद्यस्मात् तत्कृपार्थं भजामि ते गुरुपादाम्बुजं स्मृत्वा जलं शिरसि धारयेत् सर्वतीर्थावगाहस्य भूषणं पापभङ्गस्य दीपनं ज्ञानतेजसां गुरुपादोदकं सम्यक् संसारणवतारकम् अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपादोदकं गुरुपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरुरुच्छिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सदा काशीक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो जाह्नवी चरणोदकं गुरुविश्वेश्वरा साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्मविष्णुतं गुरुपादोदकं यत्तो गय्यासो सोक्षयो वटा तीर्थराज प्रयागस्य गुरुमूर्त्यै नमो नमः गुरुमूर्तिं स्मरे नित्यं गुरुनाम सदा जपेत् गुरुराज्ञां गुरुवेत्ता गुरुरन्यं भावयेत् स्थितं ब्रह्म स्वाप्यते तत्प्रसादतः गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् उल्लास्ते स्वपते यथा स्वाश्रमं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्ते पुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरुरन्यं भावयेत् अनन्या चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदं तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरुराराधनं त्रैलोक्ये सुतवत्तारो देवाद्य सुरपन्नगाः गुरुवत्र स्थिता विद्या गुरुवत्या लभ्यते युक्तारस्त्वन्धकारश्च ऋकारस्तेज उच्यते तज्ज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरुरेव संशयः ऋकार प्रथमो वर्णो मायादिगुणभासका ऋकारो द्वितीयो ब्रह्म मायाभ्रान्ते एवं गुरुपदं श्रेष्ठं देवानामपि दुर्लभम् आहाहो गणश्चैव गन्धर्वैश्च प्रपूज्यते ध्रुवं तेषां च सर्वेषां नासितत्वं गुरुपदम् आसनं शयनं साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकं गुरुराराधनं कार्यं जीवित्वं निवेदये कर्मणां मनसा वाचा नित्यमावादयेत् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ शरीरमिन्द्रियं प्राणान् सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मदारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् धूमेक्येक्ता भस्मविष्ठा दुर्गन्धिमलमुद्रकं स्मरत्तं त्वचा मांसं वञ्चयेन्न वरान्नने संसारवृक्षमारूढा पतन्तो नरकार्णवे येन चैव धृता सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हेतवे जगतामेव संसारार्णवसेतवे प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां सम्भवे गुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः त्वं त्वं च मे माता त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता संसारप्रतिबोधार्थं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भाति तत् यदानन्देन नन्दन्ते तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्थित्या सत्यमिदं यद्भादिवाणरूपता प्रियपुत्रादियत्कृत्य तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः येन चिन्तायते हिन्दं चित्तं चिन्तायते नयम् त्यागस्वप्नविशुद्ध्यानि तस्मै श्रीगुरवे यस्य ज्ञानादिदं विश्वं न दृश्यं भिन्न वेदता तदेकरूपरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्यामतं तस्य मतं मतं यस्यानवेदसा अनन्यभावभावाय यस्य कारणरूपस्य कार्यरूपेण भाति कार्यकारणरूपाय तस्मै श्री नानारूपमिदं सर्वं न केनाप्यस्ति भिन्नता कार्यकारणता चैव तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यदङ्घ्रिकमलद्वन्द्वं द्वन्द्वतापनिवारकं तारकं सर्वदा पद्भ्यः श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् श्रीवैकुण्ठे गुरुस्वाता गुरुकुञ्जे शिवो नहि तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजेत् वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं वाङ्मनश्चित्तगोचरं श्वेतरत्नप्रभाबिन्दं शिवसत्यात्मकं पदम् गुप्तारं च गुणातीतं रूपारं रूपवर्जितं गुणातीतस्वरूपं च यो दद्यात् स गुरुस्मृतः अत्रिनेत्रः सर्वसाक्षी अचतुर्बाहुरच्युतः अचतुर्वदनो ब्रह्मा श्रीगुरु कथितः प्रिये अयं मयाञ्जलिर्बद्धो दयासागरवृद्धये यदनुग्रहतो जन्तु चित्रसंसारमुक्तिदात् श्रीगुरो परमं रूपं विवेकचक्षुषो मृतं मन्दवाग्या न पश्यन्ति अन्धा सूर्योदयं यथा श्रीनाथचरणद्वन्द्वं यस्यां दिशि विराजते तस्यै दिशे नमस्कुर्यात् तस्यै दिशे सततमञ्जलिरेष आर्ये प्रक्षिप्यते मुखरितो मधुपैर्विदश्च जागर्ति यत्र भगवान् गुरुचक्रवर्ती विश्वोदयप्रलयनाटनित्यम् श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपतिं पीठत्रयं भैरवं सिद्धौघं बडुगत्रयं वदयुगं विक्रमं मण्डलम् वीराञ्जष्कचतुष्कषष्टिनवकं वीरावले पञ्चकं श्रीमन्मालिनिमन्त्रराजसहितम् अभ्यस्तैः सकलैः सुदीर्घमण्डलैः व्याधिप्रजैर्दुष्करैः प्राणायामशतैरणैककरणैः दुःखात्मकैर्भुर्जये यस्मिन्नभ्युदिते विनश्यति बले वायु स्वयं तत्क्षणात् स्वाप्तं तत्सहजं स्वभावमनिशं सेवध्वमेकं गुरुम् स्वदेशिकश्चैव शरीरचिन्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य चिन्तनं स्वदेशिकश्चैव च नामकीर्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य यत्पादवेणुकणिका कापि संसारवारिधे सेतुबन्धायते नाथं देशिकं तमो आस्महे यस्मादनुग्रहं लब्ध्वा महज्ञानमृत्सुजे तस्मै श्रीदेशिकेन्द्राय नमस्कारेष्टसिद्धये पादाब्जं सर्वसंसार दावानलविनाशकं ब्रह्मरन्ध्रे सिताम्भोज मध्यस्थं चन्द्रमण्डले अकठादिविवेकाब्जे सहस्रदलमण्डले हंसपार्श्वतिकोण्ये च नवेकं मध्यगङ्गे सकला भुवना स्वष्टे कल्पिता शेषपुष्टिर् निखिला निगमा दृष्टिः अवगुणा परिमाष्टे तत्पदार्थैकदृष्टिर् भवगुणपरमेष्टिर् मोक्षमार्गैकदृष्टिः स्थापना स्तम्भयष्टिः सकरुणा सवृष्टिः तत्त्वमाला समष्टिः सकला समया सृष्टिः सच्चिदानन्ददृष्टिः निवसतु मयि नित्यं श्रीगुरुर्दिव्यदृष्टिः आत्मशुद्धं समन्तातो ज्वालापरीक्षकाधिया मन्त्रराजमिमं मन्ये मृत्युता तन्नैजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तत्समीपके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य सर्वस्य भाग्यता अजो अमजो अम्च अनादि निधना स्वयं अव्यकवशिदानन्द अन्यान्महतो महान् अपूर्वाणां परं नृत्यं स्वयं ज्योतिर्निरामयं विरजं परमाकाशं योगमानन्दमव्ययम् इति प्रत्यक्षमैत्रेय अनुमानश्चतुष्टयं यस्य मननं यद्भवं कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते अद्भुतं च मया दृष्ट्वा अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे सर्वाश्रुति शिरोराज्ञा विराजिता पदाम्बुजा वेदान्ताम्बुज सूर्यो यस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं एव सर्वसंवाप्ते तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं ज्ञानबिन्दुफलातीतं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव तथा चैव चराचरम् व्याप्तं येन जगत्सर्वं ज्ञानशक्ति समारूढः सत्त्वमालाविभूषिता अनेका जन्म संव्राप्ता सर्वकर्माणुदाहिनी जगदोदधिकं तत्त्वं जगदोदधिकं तथा तत्त्वं ज्ञानमयं अस्ति मन्दाता श्रीजगन्नाथो मन्दिरस्य जगद्गुरो ज्ञानमूलं गुरोर्मूर्ते पूजामूलं गुरोर्मठम् सत्यमूलं गुरोरादिगणाधिष्ठं गुरुपरमदैवतं गुरुपरमस्ति सप्तसागरपर्यन्ता तीर्थस्नानामृतं फलम् जगत्सर्वं ब्रह्म विष्णु शिवात्मकं गुरौ परतरं नास्ति ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं लभ्यते गुरुभक्तिता गुरुपरतरं नास्ति देयो गुरुभागिनी यस्मात् परतरं नास्ति नित्य वैश्रुति मनसा वचसा चैव Guru-kripa prasadena Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva Sammata Prabhavadocha Mahahankara Galbhena Tapo Vidya Balanvita Samsara Duharavate Namasadi Vagandharva Vitalo Yakshutam Yara Vishaya Sarvasindhasya Devasya Brahmanandam Balamasukadam Kevalam Yanamurtim Andvaputam Nagana Sudisham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatikam Gunarahitam Nityam Shuddham Niyabhasam Nirakaram Niranjanam Nityabodham Chidanandam Yam Brahmanandam Nidambade Karnikamadya Samse Simhasane Samsudade Brahmurtim Jayet Gurum Chandra Prayapakasham Shvetambaram Shveta Vilepa Pushpam Mukta Vibhusham Muktam Vinayatram Rama Kapita Sukadeva Shakti Anandamaranandakaram Prasannam Dvamsa Nigraha Nugrahatmakam Vidyam Pancha Vidyam Shashva Vasaketam Yamadya Rata Shira Shishukrabhye Vinetram Devajam Gurum Varabhaya Yutam Shantam Navetam Madhyamam Naguroladikam 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 Shivasasamita 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 Vidameva Shivam Vidameva Shivam Vidameva Shivam Vidameva Shivam Mama Shasamito Mama Shasamito Mama Shasamito Jnanamutpadyate swayam Tatsadguru prasadena Yatohamiti bhavaya Gurudarshita bhagyeta Manna shuddhim kripadaye Annityam khandaye sarvam Yatkinchidatmagosha Iyam sarva sarupancha Jnanam cha mana uchyate Jnanam jeya samadhuryam Nanya pantha diyata Evam shukva mahadevi Guru nindam karotiya Yavat chandra divakaram Yavat kalpantako deha Tavadeva gurum smaret Guru lopo nakartavya Chandra yadi bhava Ukavindanavattavyam Vajne Shishya Katanchana Gurulagre Navattavyam Asatyam Sakadachana Gurudaktatyam Katya Aranye Nirjale Desa Munibhi Pannagaivapi Sudaiva Shapito Yadi Kalamrityu Hayadvapi Rakshati Palani Ashaktahi Sudadhyashta Ashakta Mudayastata Guru Shape Nite Shikra Saryamyatena Samshaya Mantaraja Mitam Devi Guru Rutyakshara Vandeham Satchidanandam Deyanandam Sadaguru Nityam Purnam Nirakaram Nirvalam Bhavatpadattaram Deyam Nityamanandakarakam Udayakasamam Yastam Siddhasadivasandham Vatika Pratima Rupam Angushtamatra Purusham Yayata Shinmayam Hridhi Tatra Sirati Bhavoya Unnutam Kathayamyaham Agocharam Kathagamyam Namarupa Vivarjitam Nishabdam Dhamjaniya Bhavam Nattaganda Sabhavena Tatpura Kusmadushu Shindamadi Kita Brahma Ravatatra Jayamavati Sadhusam Yudhyanam Sujatatra Sayam Brahma Mayo Bhave Mukta Pade Mukta Rute Mukta Varadite Rupadite Ye Mukta Ye Mukta Tasya Valokanam Rapya Sarva Sangha Vivarjita Ekate Nusra Shakta Krishna Se Prasada लब्धं वा न लब्धं वा स्वल्पं वा बहुलं तथा निष्कामेनैव भोक्तव्यं सर्वज्ञपदमित्याहुः देहि सर्वं मयो बुधा तदानन्दप्रकाशन्तो यत्रैव तिष्ठते सोऽपि सन्देशपुण्यभाजनं मुक्तस्य लक्षणं देवि उपदेशस्तुतादीनि गुरुमान्येन मुक्तिदा अन्येन भवेत् कार्यं तद्वदामि महामुखे लौकिकर्मणो यान्ते ज्ञानहीना भवानवं ज्ञानितो भावयेत् सर्वं धर्मनिष्ठं इदं तु भक्तिभावेन पठ्यते शृण्वते यदि लिखित्वा तत्तु दातव्यं तत्सर्वं सफलं भवेत् सुगीतात्मकं देवे शुद्धतत्त्वं मयोदितं भवव्याधिनाशार्थं गुरुगीताक्षवैकन्तो मन्त्रराजं इमं जपे अन्ये च विविधा मन्त्रा कल्लाम्नाहन्ति षोडशम् अनन्तफलमाप्नोति गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वपापप्रशमनं सर्वदारिद्र्यम् शक्तिदेवालये दुष्टे सर्वदेवालये शुभे सते चन्द्राग्निमेव पवित्रे निर्मले स्थाने निष्ठानुष्ठानतोऽपि वा मशाने भय भूमौतो वड्डमूलान्तिके तथा विद्यन्ते मूले चित्तवक्षस्य सन्निधौ पुत्रो वयं मूर्खस् तस्य सिद्ध्यन्ति नान्यथा कर्माणि सर्वाणि संसारमलनाशार्थं भवपाशान्यवृत्तये स एव च गुरुः साक्षात् सदा सत्यमवृत्तमः तस्य स्थानानि सर्वाणि पवित्राणि न संशयः सर्वशुद्धपवित्रः स्वभावयत्र तिष्ठति तद्वदेव विना सर्वे पृथ्वीकृतेव सन्ति आसनस्थ शय्यानो वा गच्छन् तिष्ठन् वदन्ति सदा ज्ञानी गुरुगीताय सत्यं पुनः सत्यं धन्यं संगं मयोदितं गुरुगीता समं नास्ति सत्यं सत्यं वदामि एको देव एक धर्म एकनिष्ठा परन्तपा गुरुपरं नान्यं तत्त्वं गुरुपरं माता धन्या पिता धन्यो धन्यो वंशाकुलं पिता धन्या च वसुधादेवी गुरुभक्ते हरिनामप्रिया प्राण धन्य भाग्यवा माता पिता कुलं देवी आकल्पा जन्मना कोट्य जपा वृक्षतपक्रिया तपो बंदे दैवा बंदभाग्याश्रयेतरा ये सेवा कुर्वन्ति सत्यं वदामि देवर्षि पितृकिन्नरा पितृचारणयक्षाश्च अन्येते मुक्तयोजना गुरुभावा परं तीर्थम् अन्यतीर्थं निवर्तकं सर्वतीर्थाश्रयो देवी पादाङ्गुष्ठं च वर्तते जपेन जयमाप्नोते चानन्दफलमाप्नुयात् हीनकर्म त्यजन् सर्वं Japamina Sanankovan Hina Karma Palapradam Gitam Prayaneva Ilamiripu Sankate Japanjayam Avapnate Marvande Mukti Dayakam Sarva Karma Sarvatra Gurudev Yamras Tawagre Katitam Maya Sudopyam Cha Prayatnega Namatam Cha Prayatnega Swami Mukhya Ganeshadi Vishnavadinam Cha Parvati Narasati Yovaktavya Kativa Patvachitaya Sagar Samudranayka Mantram Brahmadi Deva Muni Pujita Siddha Mantram Daridya Dukka Bhavaloga Vinasha Mantram Vande Mahamaya Gururaja Mantram Iti Santa Purane Uttara Kande Ishvara Parvati Samvade Guru Gita Nityanandaya Gurave Krishna Samsara Harane Bhakta Karyaika Dehaya Namaste Chitsadatmane Nirvasanam Nirvakansham Sarvadosha Vivargitam Nivalambam Nivadankam Nityanandam Nirvana Nirmamam Nirahankara Amadashtasmakanchana Amadukka Sukham Nira Avaditam Namana Avinashi Namatmanam Ekam Nityaya Tattva Uttaraga Bhayakoram Naham Deho Namne Deho Deho Naham Aham Evam Nityaya Santoor Iti Vidyaya Santotam Nityanandam Jnana Agni Dagdha Karmanam Kama Sankalpa Varjitam Heyo Padeya Hinantam Avadhitam Namanya Sabhavenaiva yo yogi Sukham bhogam do anchiti Yajachala vasantushtam Nityanandam Daiva ninda prasansabhyam Yasya vikriyate mana Atmatinam mahatmanam Avadhitam namanya Nityam jagat avastaya Jaram Vashati no yastu Jagat Vashati Chinmayam Nityayuktam Gunatitam Nityanandam Yo Hidarshana Matvena Bhavate Bhuvanatrayam Pavanam Yangamam Tirtham Navadhitam Namanya Sarva Pujyam Sadapurnam Akandananda Vidya Saprakasham Shidananda Nishkalam Nishkriyam Shantam दुर्जना सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जना शांति माया शांतो गो ब्राह्मणेभ्यः समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी शस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणा सन्तु निर्भया सर्वे सन्तो निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गाणि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु जगते पुरुषेभ्यः देश्वं सुभूतं सुविराक्रम शांति शांति शांति। God. चरण सरोज मिटाई रक्षा हमारी चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं ज्ञानमृतकलातीतं तस्मै श्री
Sadgurnad Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday morning satsang here at Shanti Mandir, and also Baba Muktananda's birthday weekend, his 114th birthday weekend that we are celebrating and honoring. Yesterday, we had a wonderful intensive with Gurudev, and the topic was love. And there's a quote from Baba that I'd like to share with all of you, and especially for those of you who weren't here with us yesterday. Baba says, love is our only reason for living and the only purpose of life. We live for the sake of love, and we live seeking love. It is not surprising that we keep looking for love. All of us are nothing but vibrations of love. We are sustained by love, and in the end, we merge back into love. Swami Muktananda. So our day continued with an evening concert where we had a concert by Anirbayan Dasgupta and Nitin Mehta, and both of them are from Boston, and it was a very mesmerizing concert. It was a Sarod concert with tabla, and both of them said that they had not played with each other, with one another, for over 10 years. So for all of us here in the audience, afterwards it was beautiful because informally they started to share a bit about the music, the experience, and especially how wonderful it was to be in the company of a real audience again, and not on Zoom and not on a camera, and being able to see the audience do all sorts of things at home, like be brushing their teeth and whatnot, and that to be in an audience where everyone was immersed in the music and in the listening and full absorption. So that was how our evening concluded. And today, as most of you know, we are continuing with that theme of love this weekend as we honor and pay tribute to the late Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharmaji. So for those of you who are affiliated with the Walden Ashram here especially, Shiv Kumar Sharmaji is a household name. He is an ashram name. He is a presence that has lived here for many years. So in the early 80s, when Gurudev first began Shanti Mandir, we used to have the intensives all the time. And the music that we played on every single one of the breaks was called When Time Stood Still. And I believe that's Rag Konsi Kannada. And it was one that used to bring us out of meditation. It was one that used to take us into meditation. And it was the most exquisite music to where over time, that was all that we knew that was associated with those breaks of the intensive. Everyone assumed that that was the only music that we ever played. And then later on throughout the years, we always had Baba's Om Namah Shivaya and other things that came with it. But also during that time, there were concerts of Shiv Kumar Sharmaji that we attended, and one was in California, in Southern California, in the very early days. I don't remember which year that was, and we went to an auditorium that was outside of LA somewhere. And again, more of his music. And then for many, there was a particular clip from a concert of his given, I'm not sure which year, I'll be able to share all the exact details and years and history, but, and that was one in Mumbai that was at a venue called Fountain. And for everybody who listens to that, as I've always said, the Santoor is a very unusual instrument in which it somehow strikes or strums the emotions of the heart. It silences the mind. It travels into every single pore of our beings. And so for many years now, and I can't remember the exact date, I'm not good on times and frames and all that, but we've had the wonderful privilege and the honor of having Shiv Kumar Sharmaji here as a presence internally through all the music concerts, and most of all through his disciple who resides here. when we talk about this word, love, when we transfer that to the guru-disciple relationship, we all know what that means and what that feels. It's very internal and it's very subtle. And the one thing that has always moved me in this aspect with Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma and his disciple here, Vinay Desai, is that probably in all the years, Vinay maybe had 5 or maybe a few more audiences with him personally, and that's it. So I'm talking about a span of time that's as wide as the sky and very, very few personal audiences. So everything that has come to manifest over time has been something from within. It's been an illumination, it's been a journey, and we've all been blessed here to be part of that. On a funnier note, on a less serious note, I have to say that for me, it's always been Vinay running around the house up there. You gotta listen to this, giving me headphones. You gotta listen to it with headphones. This is one of his concerts from years ago. No, wait, Vinay, 1 second. Give me 2 minutes. I'm just in the middle of something else. No, you gotta listen to it right now. Every time we would have speakers or we were changing our sound systems in any one of the buildings, any music that he put on to try to test it out was Shiv Kumar. So my point in all of this is that when you have that kind of a internal, subtle, deep relationship, there are no words to describe it. You simply follow its rhythm, you follow the nature of it, guru, disciple, teacher, student, listening, complete immersion, salutations, bowing again and again and again out of gratitude for what they bring. And as I said, so it's been quite a journey, and as we all know, he passed away this past week. So that was on Monday evening in Mumbai, Tuesday morning here in the US. And so when that news came to us, the first thought that crossed my mind was his disciple needs to play. His disciple needs to make an offering, a tribute to his legacy, to his incredible works. This instrument, which is called Santoor, is also known as the Shata Tantri Veena. And Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharmaji, he created it. He's a composer. He's the world's, greatest musician. In terms of teachers above him, before him, he did it all, one step at a time. So there's great, obviously there's great emotion around his passing, and that era, that legacy of such world-class renowned musicians, what they give, what they bestow, that there is a point there, and we always talk about let's not make periods, or exclamation marks, let's make a comma, so that there's that continuation, that uninterrupted flow of that music, and that it continues on generation to generation. So we have many, he has different students around the world, and who have been devotees and disciples of him for many, many years. And so today we bring you our offering here from Shanti Mandir, from Vinay Desai, who will share a bit more about the history, his relationship to Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharmaji, and to the music and what he brought to the world. So we'll have that, and then we'll have a bit of an offering where we can all close our eyes and enjoy it as a nice, sweet, silent, soft meditation. And then Gurudev will speak a few words to us, and then we'll conclude with Arati, and then we'll have our Bandara for today. And also, we were fortunate to have Panditji's son here, Rahul Sharmaji, and we do hope that in the future, that when he resumes his tours again, that he will also grace us with his presence, and we look forward to welcoming any of the Santoor players who wish to be here at the ashram and in one another's presence. So thank you all. Vinay, Desai.
Namaste, everyone. Good morning. As you heard from Devyanaji, we're going to dedicate this satsang to the passing of the legendary Pandit Shiv Kumarji, who I had the privilege and the highest honor to meet back in 2006, then 2010. Spent a number of months traveling with him in different concerts. So got to see how he interacted with different musicians, different people that came to him, what he thought, what he listened to, and what he said. And finally, it was not till 2012 that I actually played for him at his house. And then I think 2016, 17 onwards, officially learning from him. So most of you who have attended the Santoor concert or have read about Pandit Shiv Kumarji know a little bit of the history. But I think today's tribute begs the question, is it possible? Can one man do something on this scale? And whether it's Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, whether it's Baba Muktanand, Gyaneshwar ji that Gurudev talked about yesterday, Shankaracharya, these beings have done in this short amount of time something unfathomable. The verse that I love a lot is Nikatam eva drishyate kritanta nagaram dhruvam shivam smaram shivam dhyahi shivam chintaya sarvada. We sing this in the evening arati. But death approaches, it's inevitable. We can postpone it, prolong it, but it's going to come no matter what. So the answer is yes, it is possible because we've seen the lives of these great beings. But how is it possible? And I've come up with several different points that I think how it is possible to become like this in this short amount of time, whether even if it's 100 years that you live, but not Shankaracharya lived 32 years. Gyaneshwar ji commented on Bhagavad Gita at the age of 16. How is it possible? So some of the answers that I thought of over the last few days is one is in the scriptural sense, mumukshatva, or the intense desire to be liberated, as Baba Muktanand ji had. Or in Pandit Shiv Kumarji's life, we could say dhrida nischay, that intense desire, whether it's for liberation or whether it's for his music, like fire. I read somewhere that mumukshatva should be as if a man on fire is looking for water. In that moment, there are no other thoughts, there are no other desires. And that's how one should do their sadhana. Devoid of desires, external desires, and wants, comforts. Having a vision on the goal, lakshay. When Pandit Shiv Kumarji was given this instrument Santoor, it looked quite different from this. It was played in the traditional Sufiana style of music. The musicians would sing the poems and play it. They just struck it. It was a ambiance type of music. Though it existed for a couple thousand years, it was still played in a different way. So Pandit Shiv Kumarji learned vocal and tabla from his father at the age of 5. At the age of 12, he was handed this instrument and said, okay, transfer your knowledge that I've taught you. His father didn't, his guru, did not know Santoor, but had done research on it. So Shiv Kumarji perhaps learned from different Sufiana style of musicians. And then I think after 7, 8 years, he presented that music piece in Mumbai in front of some of the biggest pandits, some of the biggest ustads. And it was rejected. They came up to him and they said, "Aapke bas ki baat nahi hai. This is not something you can do. Give up this instrument. You know, you're talented. Go learn sitar. Go back to vocal. Play tabla." And he was an amazing vocalist, amazing tabla player, played in the All India radio. So Shiv Kumarji obviously did not give up because he had the firm conviction and belief that his guru's word would bear fruit. No matter what the failures, he was going to give it his best to bring this instrument to Indian classical music. So that's another point I have is Guru Vakya, following the Guru's command with faith and dedication. And we've heard from Baba Muktanand's readings that his Guru, Bhagwan Nityanand, told him to go meditate for 9 years in Sukhi. So following the word of the Guru, Purusharth or effort. So next 10 to 12 years of Pandit Shiv Kumarji's life, he modified the instrument, modified how it should be played, how the stick should be held. Probably whatever he went through, we don't know. But basically changed the instrument altogether. And as Gurudev said, we expect all our efforts to bear fruit. But that's not the case with these beings or anybody. Is efforts, they don't go to waste, but they don't necessarily bear fruit. And he was modifying this instrument while struggling in his life in Mumbai, looking for work. There's a story where he was kicked out from his apartment by the tenant because they didn't have enough money to pay for the rent. So he lived on the street for a few days. And we hear the story that Gurudev shares about Baba Muktanand putting dirt in a loincloth, putting water through the loincloth and drinking that, accepting that as his prasad for that day. So these are the situations where I wonder, what would we do in these situations? I think 99% would quit. So these are the 1% categories. Pandit Shiv Kumarji, Baba Muktanand, Gyaneshwar. 1% of the category. Because we would probably blame. We would blame other people. We would blame the planets. We would blame the situation. And we would go back to the comfort, which was in his Jammu Kashmir area. His family was well-to-do. So he could have gone right back. But no, he persevered. He put in the effort that was needed. So that, I would characterize that as tapascharya. We study Vedanta and Shaivism on this path. And I think most of the people love Shaivism. Some of the conversations I hear in the dining room are all about Shaivism. And nobody ever talks about Vedanta. So I asked somebody last year because they were praising Shaivism. I said, "Oh, have you studied Vedanta?" They said, "No, they didn't even know it existed, that philosophy." So I think this is analogous to our life, is that we look at these great beings and we look at the later part of their life, which is full of joy and fame and prestige, which is Shaivism. And we ignore the effort that they put through with Vedanta, Tapascharya, for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you know, facing big blows, facing setbacks, yet going on. So, and even after struggling for so many years, it took another. Okay, so one of the points I have here is humility, vinamrata, the ability to listen to criticism and improve from that, to adapt to the environment. So he could have very well said, well, to those critics in 1955, I think, that, well, this is how Santoor was played for 2,000 years. You like it or not, this is what I practice, this is what I will play. He could have, but he didn't. He took that criticism, and after 12 years, he brought that instrument out again, a different kind of instrument, different type of energy, with that anubhav, that experience. And they loved it. So it was accepted. And then took another 20, 30 years for that instrument to be well known in the entire world. So we're talking 60 years. So while his sadhana was going on, and even after, the one quality that I think he had, that I felt, was samadrishti. What made him different from all other musicians was his personality. Totally composed, withdrawn, quiet, contemplative, spiritual. Didn't talk much. Always smiled. I still remember, I think it was 2012, there was a concert in Elephanta Island, and some of you have been there. But you have to first drive to the gate of India, and then take a boat, an hour and a half to Elephanta Island, and the concert was there. And it was organized very poorly. From the ride to the gate of India, waiting there, the boat ride, all of that. And this is a caliber of musician who could have walked away and said, I don't deserve this. But he changed that energy of that entire audience. He played one of the most beautiful pieces I heard at that time. And the organizer, I saw this with my own eyes, this is not hearsay. The organizer went up to him and said, Mafi, like, forgive me, it shouldn't have been like that. And his exact words were, it's okay. Next time we can do better. So he said his guru told him, Zehn pe mat lo. Don't, whether it's ninda or criticism or prashansa, praise, don't take that on your heart. Take what is good to see how you can become better. But don't take that on your heart. If somebody says, wow, you're amazing, okay. If somebody says, you're horrible, okay. And in fact, his guru said, those who criticize you, keep them closer, because you will learn more. So, one of his main teachings, and I think that's applicable to all musicians, is Shravanam, to listen. He said you learn 50% to 75% of learning is just listening, whether it's listening to recordings but mostly listen to yourself. Self-assessment, self-analysis. Record yourself. See where you went wrong. See what you did right. See how you can do better next time. So at another one of his concerts, he played Rag Yaman. Now, Yaman, if some of you know, is one of the basic rags that is taught in Indian classical music when you first begin learning. So he played Rag Yaman, came off the stage, and said something like, Yaman abhi bhi naya rasta dikha raha hai. It's showing, this rag is still teaching me more things, showing me more ways to arrive at that, either the sum, arrive at those notes, arrive at that feeling. So this is after 67, 70, 80 years of playing Yaman. He has this comment that he's still learning. So I think what his life teaches us is to be a true sadhaka. Whether he was, he never wasted time. Whether he was in the car, he would listen to music. If he was in the green room, he was always the last player to play because he was the most senior. So he would listen to all the other concerts before him. If somebody was talking, he would say, "Main sun raha hu, I'm listening to the concert." And those musicians would come and pay respect to him, and he said, "I was listening from the backstage." And we know that was true because we heard it, we saw it. He was listening. He would close his eyes, keep the beat, make comments like, "Oh, I haven't heard that in 40 years. I haven't heard that lera in 40 years." So, being a student at all times, knowing the goal but never feeling that he was at the goal, knowing the goal, seeing the goal, he always maintained that he was on the path, that he was still a sadhaka, doing his sadhana. So there's a lot to be said about Shiv Kumarji. As Devyani ji said, he was one of the greatest musicians in my eyes. Composer, he composed many film songs, gave inspirations to many people, taught many musicians. In fact, if you look at YouTube, you'll see Ustad Zakir Hussain ji saying that he learned how to do sangat, how to accompany an instrumentalist because of Pandit Shiv Kumarji. He taught him. So he was a great influence to music in general. Many other musicians, whether sitar or sarod, use the same type of laikari that Shiv Kumarji brought on his santoor. Bring those chants from the tabla onto their instrument. This is all inspired by Pandit Shiv Kumarji. So definitely a huge loss for the music industry, music field. But his legacy will live on, and even after 1,000 years, people will know who Shiv Kumarji was. So, again, there's a lot to be said, but I think we'll end here, and I'll present a short alap in a morning rag that will hopefully convey the amazing works that Pandit Shiv Kumarji accomplished in his lifetime. So, Sadhguru Maharaj.
Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. So good morning and welcome everyone. Thank Vinay for his wonderful playing. For those of you who attend concerts here, just like you did now, I am of the belief applause is actually horrible. I don't know who started it. Happened last night as well. The tabla player played Tihai or their certificate, and people go, wow. And at one point, when the applause happened and Anirbanji stopped, I said, Vinay, did he finish or did he stop because of the applause? Because that was a question in my mind. And Vinay said, well, maybe he'll play Madhyalaya and Dhut, because he just finished his alap. It happened to us in Magod just very recently. We had a tabla player along with a flute player. And because Shanti Mandir Magod has a lot of tabla players, when he's a young tabla player, student of Alaraka and Zakir. You've seen him on Wah Chai. Our students started applaud to his tabla, drowning out the flute and not appreciating the flute, which is the main instrument, and the tabla being an accompanying instrument. He actually had to say, is there anybody here who plays the flute? And Govind, who's going to come in a few days, is the only student we have who actually plays flute and has studied a bit. But as Vinay said, it takes a lot of effort to continue. So though over the years we have tried hard to have music as a part of life, because I think that that's very important. In one of the clips from Shikumarji, you will hear that music and spirituality go hand in hand. And that if music did not exist, what would happen to spirituality? In the Indian tradition, music has been an integral part. And if you just Google Indian classical music, they have so much information that even to understand what they are trying to say. Because here in the Western world, we only talk about do, re, mi, fa, sol, re. But then, in the Indian tradition, we have 22 swaras. So the harmonium actually, or the Western fit, regulated sound or pitch is not accepted. As Vinay introduced the Sarod last night, and he said that there are no frets on the Sarod. So imagine the amount of focus and meditation the artist has to have. Somebody said, Shivkumarji, as Vinay said also, always sat quietly in the green room meditating. When another well-known female artist, Kishori Amonkarji, who would not come out unless she found the sur within her. She was finicky, she was picky. And if things happen in the audience during the program, like we have now, water bottles is our main issue. And it always happens to happen just when we've become quiet. Don't know why, but we do. That's how dead we have become to sound. That's how unsensitive we have become as human beings. And as I've thought about today, celebrating Baba Muktananda, his 114th birthday, celebrating Shivkumarji, his legacy, his life, And then just at breakfast, Devyani is sharing what happened in Buffalo this morning, I guess, or last night. And I thought to myself, who do we actually blame? That a young man drives 200 miles to go kill some people. So I thought our young Indian children sitting in the audience especially, who probably tell Mama, shut up. Dad, that's enough. And Samvit now has his grandparents here to add to the mix. So I don't know how he deals with them. But Samvit himself asked me a question last year, or maybe his father did. Because Samvit has played the tabla, he's played the piano. Currently he leads the band, right? Or something in the band, right? Seen a picture of him conducting the band. So he had a question. If I don't do drugs, if I don't do sex, if I don't do all of these so-called things, I don't think I have a chance to become famous. Because that's the society he's in right now for the last 3-4 years. I think he's in 12th this year, right? 11th. So he's been here, his parents brought him over. He was born here in New Jersey. He went back to India, come back here to the US. And now he thinks to become famous, he has to do these things. He's not thinking that he has to do his music well. That's what I said to him. I said, this is the wrong understanding the society has given to our children. There's a young man out of Canada, again I think of Indian origin, AVVY, I think is his name. And he has tried through music to popularize Indian raga. Now, it's a very complex subject. First, human being. And second, what do we do with a human being? I read a quote the other day, and I thought it would be appropriate. Dale Carnegie wrote this. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. Amazing, no? I mean, we are supposedly the best of the creation, supposedly. As human beings, we have so much potential, so much that is there within us. And you might tell me, which many people do, but we are doing well. No, every time I hear a wrong, a negative action, I think, no, we have failed somewhere. We don't think it affects us because I'm alive right now. I have not been killed. I was not part of the shooting yesterday. I'm not part of the war somewhere. But as a whole, as a society, somehow we are responsible. In the very same breath, I'll say, I'm sure many of you know that the Golden Gate Bridge is one of the highest suicide points in the United States. I don't know why. I have heard that when I've traveled through there. And I read it recently. They were applauding a cop who was stopping a young man who was getting ready to jump off the bridge. A white cop, a black young man. And you can just see the cop is completely poised, not getting excited, not getting angry, because he knows one wrong thing, one wrong move. There are two different colors, first of all. And he convinces the young man that there is another side to the story that he has not seen yet. There is another side to life, another viewpoint. So this 20-some-year-old is convinced and he doesn't jump. I know you might say after such a beautiful rendering by Vinay, why do you bring this up? But that's one Vinay. We need lots more Vinays. He began with vocal, for some of you will remember, out in the tent, him and Vivek. Then I think he went on to tabla, maybe even flute, violin. I'm sure Mamiji, his aunt sitting back there, probably wondered at times, is he really going to do something or is he just going from one to the other? And he finished his graduation in there. He was going to study pharmacy. So I said, we already have so many pharmacists. He reminded me of that the other day. Do something else. Do something more. I try and encourage young people to think, what else can I do? Because it's so easy to just do that which the crowd is doing. It's applauded. It's what people think is what you should do. But to just stop for a moment. This last week I watched a movie, Indian movie, on a lady named Gunjan Saxena. She wanted to learn how to fly. But by the time she arrived at flying school, it was 1 million rupees. And there was no way her family could afford to raise that kind of money. Her father supported, mother didn't, because the son was already in the army, the father was already in the army. They thought, at least let's keep one child safe at home. So one day, the father finds an ad in the newspaper that the Indian Air Force is now willing to train women as pilots. So he gives her the paper and tells her to bring it at breakfast and show it to the mother. So she shows it to the mother. The mother says, who found it? Being young, she said, Dad. He goes, huh? What? He goes, I'm not hungry, I'm leaving the table now. And it goes on, she does very well. She happens to join the Air Force at the time of the Kargil War. This is the war between India and Pakistan. The Air Force is used to men. They don't have a locker room for women. They don't have a bathroom for women. So she goes into the men's bathroom. And then the officers, the CEO says, report in 10 minutes to the sortie, into the flying they're going to do. And it takes her almost 8 minutes to find where is she going to go change. She eventually goes to the room. When she arrives on the tarmac, her CEO is taking off in the helicopter. He meets her afterwards. He says, I told you 10 minutes. And the commander arrives first. You arrive before. You arrive before and the commander arrives next. She said, sir, but he said, no excuses. Imagine. He is very aware of the situation. He's very aware that there is no place for her to change, but she has to figure out. So she takes 2 lockers, moves them together, puts a curtain rod, puts a curtain, and that's her changing room in the boys' locker. At the end it says she actually served in that war, flew 40 flights, saved people, and whatever else that she did. So what I want to say is that we want to teach our young people, this is the potential. This is the possibility. Her brother tries to talk her out of it and telling her, not everybody is like dad. Not everybody is like the father. Society is very close-minded. Society is very limited. You know, as Dale Carnegie says here, they are not logical human beings. When Kaveri was here a couple of weeks ago, she said, Harvard is going to spend $100 million to erase its slavery, whatever it did. And so I found a quote which I shared with her. History is not there for you to like or dislike. It is there for you to learn from it. And it offends you, and if it offends you, even better. because then you're less likely to repeat it. It's not yours to erase. It belongs to all of us. So try and tell people, wake up to the fact of the deterioration that's happening now. This is a music that has developed over time. 5000 BCE, however we want to time it, which Veda, some Veda, of course, is attributed to music. And then you begin to ask yourself so many questions and so many things. I shared a story yesterday and I realized, Ingrid, you were sitting here yesterday and you're sitting here now, of an elephant and a donkey. And Ingrid, I think, raised donkeys some years ago. So just this morning, I thought I want to share this story, and I thought, oh my God, she's sitting here. But it's okay. An elephant and a donkey have a debate of the color of the sky. The elephant says it's blue. The donkey says it's red. They can't come to a decision, so they decide to the king of the jungle, the lion, and ask him, what is the color of the sky? And they tell him the situation. And the king of the jungle says, the elephant will get 10 beatings. The elephant will get 10 beatings. The elephant looked at him and said, but I'm right. He said, no. Why did you even have to argue with the donkey? And then bring it here to my court? And there's a very interesting point here if we begin to think of this. So much of our life is wasted. And then a one-line quote which I loved. If you are the smartest person in the room, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Think of this. Don't show off that I am the smartest person in the room. Realize that you are in the wrong room. Either elevate the room to where you are at if you have that potential, if you have that capability or capacity. Over the week, as I thought of Baba Muktananda, I thought, all over the week, people will talk about his meditation, his yoga, his spirituality, and all of the so-called spiritual things that he did. But I thought, we have to think about the social aspect of Baba Muktananda's life. And why just Baba Muktananda? You talk about any great sage that has lived upon this earth. Yes, he did what he did on the spiritual level. The more important aspect of a sage's life that is not looked at is the social aspect of his life. I remember as a young child growing up in the ashram, we would have feasts for 2,000 people on a special occasion. The villagers would be invited. My father, his friends, all of the people who owned restaurants in Bombay were the cooks, and the pot was about 5 feet tall and was wood fire underneath. Simple menu. And the villagers, for all of us who throw away food, remember this and think of this. The villagers sometimes don't have a meal to eat. The United States is only a very small percentage of the earth, and it consumes the most. And we just consume because we think, I think I shared this last year, that when you go into the grocery store, they say the racks must be full, because if the racks are not full, the consumer thinks that this store is not doing well. I thought, wow. Think of the psychology again that we have created. Where does this hatred come from? You have to ask this question to yourself. Because I do, and I ask myself this. Where does this come from? Whether it is within myself or whether it is in others. Everybody who I talk to says, I don't like watching news. There's nothing positive. But we live in that society which has negative news. And we are part of the reason why we have negative news. Ask yourself, what do I do to make my society a positive place, an uplifting place? What am I doing to my children? What am I doing to my family? What am I doing, to the people in my circle to make it a positive, uplifting? So when I say that I want to talk about the social aspect of a sage. So these people, when they were served laddus, which you will get at lunch today, they would be served one or two. And as you walk by in the line, you would know that you had served that line, but that whole line didn't have the laddu. Because he'd already put it in his pocket or in his vessel. The person in charge of managing the show would get upset and angry. Say, take that laddu out, don't hide it. And if Baba happened to be there, he said, what do you lose if they take one more home to somebody who has not come here to this meal today? The Shakti, the energy, the grace, the blessings will reach that person who is sitting at home. Think of the word magnanimous. And think, what is it that we can do? Some time ago, I found this somewhere. Some person wrote it, and I thought, as Devyani said, on a lighter note. Please don't talk to me about pure awareness or dwelling in the absolute. Was it spiritual bypass? I want to see how you treat your husband or wife. I want to see how you treat your kids, your parents, your precious body. Please don't lecture to me about Vedanta, the illusion of the self or the separate self, or how you achieved permanent bliss in a retreat in 7 days. He doesn't have any retreat, but I read that because we have a retreat coming up. I want to feel a genuine warmth radiating from your heart. I want to feel a genuine warmth radiating from your heart. I want to hear how well you listen. Take in information that doesn't fit your personal philosophy. I want to see how you deal with people who disagree with you. We made a valid point with Shukumarji. There was criticism in the way he had created that first instrument. But he took that and he went and said, okay, more work to do. Brij Bhushan, who played guitar with him, said, somebody said to him, Panditji, in India we have a habit, we say, maaf karna, galti ho gayi. If I've made a mistake, then forgive me. Shukumarji said, make a mistake first. I tell people, don't even say that statement. You're just saying that statement has no meaning to it. Didn't you try your best in what you're doing, in the effort that you have put forth, whether it's a letter that you have written, or whether it's words you are speaking, or whether what is it that you are doing? Yes, you tried your best. So if you tried your best, why do you say, please forgive me? That means you're not putting forth your best effort, is how I think of it. And forgiveness exists because everybody smiles in that moment because they know you missed the beat. In music, for example. Because your hand went too far or you had a thought whatever it is that happened. And if the two of you are in total sync, the one will make up for the other, and audience won't even realize it unless they are musicians. Because the tabla player just raised his hand. Amjad Ali Khanji made a little, again, light of a conversation. He said, in Jalandhar there is a large festival that takes place. Still, I think takes place, I guess. Musicians go there, and musicians go to these few places around India when they are, especially in the making, they want to get onto the stage. They want to be recognized by their senior musicians. And then Amjad Ali Khanji said, when the vocalist comes to the sum, to the end of his cycle, he does this to the tabla. You'll see, Vinay will sometimes, musicians will like, this is it, that they've come back to the da. An instrumentalist cannot do it unless he lets one of his hands off or something, or he just strums his instrument, whatever it is that he does. So they said Shiv Kumarji was laughing at the audience because he was probably sitting in the audience watching the other musicians play, because sometimes there are 12 hours, 24 hours of music that goes on. Because there are so many musicians, each musician gets maybe 30 minutes, I guess, I don't know, or maybe an hour if they are senior. And that few minutes of, changing, getting off and getting on and all of that. And sometimes, like Nitin Mitra said last night, can we have an all-night concert here so that we can play some 2 a.m., 3 a.m. ragas? Because he said, normally we don't have concerts at that time. He said, think of this next fall, next October, year and a half from now. Prepare. And he said, we'll find enough local musicians who live in this tri-state area. We'll just get them to come. He said, a good cook and a good musician. So, don't tell me how awakened you are, how free from ego you are. So all of us who go to spiritual retreats, we have all this now. The dining room conversations. I want to know you beneath the words. All this. I want to know what you are like when troubles befall you. If you can fully allow your pain and not pretend to be invulnerable, if you can feel your anger yet not step into violence, if you can grant safe passage to your sorrow yet not be its slave. And to me, this is what I think when the scriptures talk about detachment. If you can feel your shame and not shame others. If you make a mistake and admit it. If you can say sorry and really mean it. If you can be fully human in your glorious divinity. Don't talk to me about your spirituality, friend. I'm really not that interested. I only want to meet you. I want to know your precious heart. I want to know the beautiful human struggling for the light. So before the spiritual one, before all the clever words. And somebody named Jeff Foster wrote this. And it's been around, I've seen it here and there. Not too much, because we as spiritual people don't want to promote this. Because we like our labels. My ego is less, that's here. I'm able to handle a situation, etc., etc., etc. And for all families that have spiritual people in the family, they will tell you how horribly they perform in situations. Sad. Sad especially when it comes to me. When they say, so-and-so has been a part of your ashram or Baba Muktananda, and this is how they are, this is how they behave. So we have to really think about change, movement, upliftment, better human being. I agree, we all have our issues. I am sure that even the best of a human being has an issue. But it is how you handle the issue. How you handle the situation, as he says, How do you go through the pain, the suffering, the trouble? So all of that which we learn through any great sage, through any great musician, I often tell people, just simply hang out with them. You don't have to think, because what we think is, I have come for these 3 days. In these 3 days, I want my full money's worth or time's worth. And an actual physical class is what's going to teach you or show you. And I've shared this sometimes. The Pandit Bhimsenji also goes from South India, Karnataka, the village that Umesh is from, Dharwad, to Jalandhar. And in Jalandhar, in the north of India, in Punjab, he finds out that there is a musical guru who's right next to his village. So he comes back, goes to the guru, and says, I want to learn music. The guru says, okay, sweep, mop, cook. And then one day in the middle of serving lunch, the guru says, okay, sing this particular raga. He looks at him like, I'm serving lunch. He says, I said, sing the raga. Because if the guru is in tune with what's going on, he knows that the disciple in that moment is in that place that he can offer something. That willingness. We talked about a couple of weeks ago of Ishvara Pranidhana from the Yoga Sutras. Self-surrender to divinity. It doesn't happen, but when it happens, it's a wonderful feeling, it's a wonderful experience. So let us all on this day when we celebrate Baba Muktananda's birthday, it's the full moon, there's an eclipse tonight. If you are awake, you have to go out to see it because it'll be in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. or so. And if there are no clouds. Or you can just see it photographed tomorrow. Just this morning, Bhaskar sent a picture. We have a lady who's been associated with us in Ganeshpuri. A simple village lady. And came some years ago and said, I want to join Hastakala. I want to do something. So she came, spent some time in Magod. She learned. And then, as I said, it's not so easy to start something, to do something. So for a couple of years, 3 years, we didn't hear anything. Then we saw her again. Then one day as we drove past, all of a sudden we saw a little shop. And she was sitting there with a machine, sewing machine, and 2-3 other machines. And all of a sudden I said, oh, stop the car, stop the car. So we stopped the car. And she ran out. She said, come in, come in. I said, how did you end up here? My in-laws were kind. They gave me some money and said, here, do something. So she said, I thought, let me do this. And I said, and this? She said, this is training. Other women come in when they finish their home duties, meaning cooking for the family, or whatever it is that they do. And we have figured out who comes when. She said, I sit here all day, and other women come and go. We stitch cholis, we do this, we do that, we do all of these things. And I looked at her and I was like, wow. So then after that, every time we drove past, I always told the driver, stop. Let's say hello to her. And then today, Bhaskar sends a photograph. She's at the governor's office, the governor of the state of Maharashtra. Somebody she knew organized that he could take her for a meeting. And so Bhaskar sent a picture of this lady sitting with the governor and another lady. So I tell Bhaskar, I said, tell her I'm proud of her. So when we talk about social upliftment, we never told her that you'll go to the governor's office on the 15th of May 2022. I mean, that was not even a thought. We just thought if she uplifts herself and whoever else possibly saw her journey, who probably felt proud of her achievement, probably thought, okay, if I can take her somewhere else, that will all of a sudden raise her status in society. Her whole thinking now has to become magnanimous. So for any one of us that thinks, what can I do? I'm living in a little town in the middle of nowhere. I know nobody is what the answer. These are the things. I tell people, you know yourself. And nobody comes. I said, well, you come. It's the thing we always hear at Satsang. You know, I do Satsang and nobody comes. I said, you come? Yeah, I come. I said, then what else? I said, people first want to know your commitment to Satsang or to that aspect of life. They want to see that you're at it. We've been here in this property 22 years this July. Last week when I talked to Umesh and Lalita, Umesh passed away earlier on in the month. We had an intensive in Livingston, New Jersey. And the only two people who showed up other than Devyani and myself was Umesh and Lalita. It was 8 a.m. and we both looked at each other. What do we do? The easiest thing is to say, you know what, we'll just hang out together and call it a day. I looked at Devyani, I said, no, we must do the schedule. The schedule that we have for the day will just be you, me, Umesh and Lalita. And I still think sometimes of all of these various times in life. And here we sit today in Namaste. We're excited. We have a new building coming up. We're excited of all of the developments. But if you go along in the journey of any individual, you'll find that all of us had days of the Golden Gate Bridge. And if we survived that day at the Golden Gate Bridge, we also had a cop of some kind, in some form, who came and said, wait a minute, there is another viewpoint to life. There's another way to look at life. We can take care of this situation. And in that moment, what it needs is a courage in yourself. Is a faith, is a belief, is a trust. I received a message from a man in a little village. He broke his leg, broke his bone in January, and the doctor has not been able to fix it, and it's May. He said, I have suicidal thoughts. But somebody from Delhi called me and said, we'll send you a message. And he said, all I want is to get well and not have these thoughts. So we hear this line, no, it takes a village to raise a child, and I think it takes a village to raise a human being. Because a child is never done. Indian kids tell me, I am 60. My mother still tells me how to put away the dishes. And you read it as a joke sometimes on social media nowadays, with the parent telling the child as he wakes up to make the bed. And the child says, what does it matter? I'm going to sleep in it tonight anyway. For those people, I think from what Madhu sent some years ago, I tell them to listen to Admiral McRaven's talk. It's on YouTube. You can have a short version, you can have the full version. And he says the first thing to do is make your bed. So tell people, in the Gita it says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Do your daily actions diligently. So when we think of actions, we just think of the big actions. We think of the actions that the world will see. But I think it begins with actions that no one will see. Those are the actions that you have to be even more conscious of doing well. So all of this, at the end of the day, takes patience, which I think our society today lacks. You'll say, no, we have. I would say, not as much as you should. And being prepared, being ready for what the situation could be. Because we think we go planned. In Gunjan's movie, when the Indians watch, you'll see the CEO, the commanding officer, when she just wants to open her mouth to tell why, and he goes, no excuses. And I remember some years ago when Durga gave a talk here on Baba's birthday, and she said, mistakes were not part of the routine. In Baba's world, you just had to be so diligent, has to be so present, had to be so in the moment, that it was not possible that you could make a mistake. Because what is a mistake? A mistake is lack of awareness. A simple lack of awareness is a mistake. So no, you don't make a mistake. So, in talking about Baba Muktananda, if you have old magazines, if you have old magazines, all these different named ones that were published in the US, published in India, published in Delhi. Some were similar, some were unique, some were different. I look at the pictures first. In the olden days, there were more pictures. And of course, there were very lengthy articles of all of this kind of stuff that Jeff Foster said not to say. But some people actually lived those things and it was real to them. And look at the amount of social work that Baba Muktanand did around that village of Ganeshpuri. Because I believe a sage thinks upliftment has to happen not just within my physical property, but it has to happen all around. The energy, the vibration must change. Yesterday I went for a walk and early morning, and I just reached the top of what Devani calls Maple Road. I didn't know what time it was, and I was wondering to myself. I left at 5:40, and I would stop every so often to look. Prabhupada always sends us pictures of nature, so I thought, okay, I don't have a camera, I can take it with my own mental camera. Because there was a lot of fog yesterday. And then it's just amazing to see the separation of fog. There's like a little clearance. There's fog, there's clearance, there's fog. And because we have a whole mountain range, it's a long fog. And so when you reach certain points of the property and you look at the right time, you see it. And I've still been looking for the eagles because I've been told they have 2 babies. Somebody said it's in this nest, somebody says in that nest. And I'm so lost sometimes in my own thought that I said, oh my God, the eagles. And so I walked around, I came to the top of that path. And I heard the conch. And I thought, wow, It's almost half a mile away from the temple. And I thought this is the raising of vibration. I tell people, learn to blow a conch. You think it's easy. No, it's good. It's good to blow a conch. It's good to learn to blow a conch. You will say, this conch doesn't blow, that conch doesn't blow. That conch is easier blow, that conch. Conches are conches. It is you who need to learn how to use your lips, how to blow air. It is the best pranayama. During COVID, I don't know how many of you all saw, there was a tube with balls that they gave you to do exercise for the lungs. But the sages say, blow a conch. That's the best exercise. And first time you blow it, you will not be able to blow it. You'll blow it and you'll be done in a matter of moments. And then as you get good at it, you'll find that you can take a long, soothing, peaceful, you will become grounded. I'm not joking. And sounds are different in different conches. The smaller conches sound different. The bigger conches sound different. You have to find a conch that you resonate with. And if you're shy to blow it in your own home, go out into Central Park if you live in the city. Music. Shiv Kumar Sharma ji. We've lost a few good musicians over this last couple of years. But that's bound to happen. They all reach the 80s and 90s. And time, life catches up. And we are behind them also, moving up. You know, when you are young, you hardly hear of any people dying because all your friends in your friend circle are usually your age. It's only when you start to get up and then reach, I don't know what point I can't say, and then you start to hear, oh, I spoke with Shivkumar, Shushankar Prasad ji yesterday. He must be in his mid-70s. I told him Umesh Hattikodur ji died. He goes, he was young? I said, yes, 79. Yes, see? And I couldn't even laugh, Niteshwari, because he's in his mid-70s. And first he got a little confused, which Umesh? I said, no, the other Umesh is well, hardy, he's 83 and he's going around to meet everybody, give them inspiration to live life. So this, when you think of social work now, don't think I'm going to go work at some soup kitchen. Because again, this is the mentality we have when we think, how can I serve community? You think I have to go somewhere. No, you don't have to go anywhere. Where you are, beginning with yourself, that's the best social work to become a good human being. Over the last few months in Magod, we wrote it on the board and put it up that Shanti Mandir ka udesh sabhi ko sajjan banana hai. The goal of Shanti Mandir is to make noble human beings. We wrote simple things that you might think, I do it. But when you begin to look at it, you realize, I'm not so sure. Speak the truth, understand the truth, support the truth. Live life with a firm determination. Don't talk nonsense. Live, ईमानदारी को क्या बोलेंगे? Live with honesty, live with integrity. And create such an outline for your life. I was thinking, in the early days when we were kids, we had to write essays. And I think we got a little outline from the teacher. I don't know if it still continues today. But you have to use your imagination of, bird, sky, blue, red. Get out of the comfort zone. Do something new, something uplifting. Don't steal through your mind or through your speech or through your actions. And become not so limited in your own life, but develop. Like gold, allow yourself to be purified in the fire. Find somebody whose company you can keep, from whom you will learn something, who will be beneficial, who will be uplifting. Zakir Hussain, in his words for Shukumarji, says that when I was 12, Shukumarji held my finger and took me around. He said, when I wanted to go that way, he would simply grab my ear and pull me back. And as Vinay said, he taught. And again, taught, as soon as we think taught, we think, okay, he sat and said, no, not this. No, just in the playing. He said they did about 350 concerts together in many countries around the world. And that was wonderful, because the interviewer says, can you share some personal details? He said, that's personal between the two of us. Become creative. Each day think of something new, something different. And constantly pray to be successful, to achieve success. And this last point says, keep doing them again and again. Don't think I have achieved success, done. Okay, that was yesterday. What is today? What can you do today? So life is short. So we have to think destination, goal. And you have to constantly improve how you're getting to it, improve, and so on and so forth. So these are thoughts, these are, I would say, courageous things that each one of us can do. So we'll take a few moments to sing Om and end with the Ekta mantra, the mantra of oneness from the Rig Veda. Kali Pachega. The note is B flat. So just allow yourself to sit comfortably. Find your breath. You take an in-breath, and as you breathe out, each one of us sings Om. It is the same as the conch, that sound travels, goes into the infinite, and our uplifting thoughts, uplifting feelings, emotions go out into the universe. That all. We'll end with the prayer of oneness from the Rig Veda. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Samidhyo Vase Vishannagne Vishwa Nyavya Ilaspade Samyudhyase Sano Vasunyavara Samgachadvam Samvadadvam Samvo Manam Sijanatam Deva Bhagam Yatha Purve Sanjanana Upasate Samano Mantra Samiti Samani Samanam Mana Sahachittame Sham Samanam mantram abhimavantra eva samanena vo havisha juhomi samani va akute samana hridayani vaha samanamastu vo mano yata va harihi om yo Shanti Randharikshagum Shanti Prithivi Shanti Apaha Shanti Okhadaya Shanti Vaha Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvagum Shanti Shanti Veva Shanti Sama Shanti Edhi Yato Yataha Samihase Tato No Abhayam Kuru Shannaha Kuru Prajabhyo Bhayannaha Pashubhyaha Om Shanti 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 Sushanti Bhavatu Sarva Vishta Sarvopadrava Shanti Vastu Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
So this concludes our Sunday morning satsang. Thank you all for your presence here today. And just a reminder to everyone that next week Gurudev will not be in residence for our Sunday morning satsang. He'll be departing for the Virginia area beginning on Wednesday. But we will have satsang as we do each Sunday. And next Sunday, we have Gurudev's the last interview, the last recorded interview with Anshul Agarwal. So that will be projected onto the screen, and then everyone who's joining us live stream, everyone who's joining us virtually, you'll be able to see all of the questions and answers. So definitely do join us. That's on Sunday. And then also just a reminder to everyone that the next intensive and the next music concert is on June 25th. So that'll be the culmination of the Understanding the Siddha Path, the course retreat that will take place here from June 10th, June 11th to June 26th. So on the 25th, we will have a one-day intensive that's open to everyone, virtually and also in person, and that will give us a nice glimpse of everything that took place during the retreat. And then in the evening, we'll have a music concert that night as well. Also, I just want to update everybody, as everyone knows here, from the beginning, when COVID manifested, we've been guided by Larry Walensky, who has kept us updated and kept everyone safe here at the ashram with whatever communications. And the most recent communication that I received from him yesterday, just to bring everyone up to speed, is Orange, Ulster, Dutchess, and Sullivan counties, which are all near to us here, are all now classified as high spread for COVID-19. The wearing of masks is recommended indoors. So far, it's only a recommendation, and there are no New York State Health Department mask wearing mandates. So for those of you attending satsang in the upcoming weeks, if you would like to wear your mask, you're most welcome to do so, and we'll just take it 1 week at a time, okay? Also, today's lunch bandara, Bandara Prasad, is offered by Rajiv, Namrata, Kushal, Shimoli, and the birth of their new grandson and child, Shreyan, from Ohio. So today's lunch bandara is vegetable korma, jeera rice, and a raw papaya salad, and then a bunch of sweets. So please do enjoy that. And also, as Gurudev mentioned, here at the ashram, we look very forward to Tuesday, where we'll be welcoming Govind Bavaria from Shanti Mandir Magod, our next student who is will be en route shortly, and he'll arrive here to the ashram on Tuesday afternoon. So we all look forward to that. And let me see if there's anything else. And I think that's all for now. So everybody's invited to come up for darshan, followed by lunch prasad. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Sadhguru Maharaj Ki Jai.